Dominant is the word that comes to mind when thinking about the Baltimore Ravens offense. Their 12 wins in 2024 are one fewer than they managed in 2023, yet this team feels leagues ahead and much more prepared for this moment. I mean, in Lamar Jackson, they have an MVP caliber playing at the top of his game, and in Derrick Henry, they have an unstoppable force who is built for this time of the year. And honestly, I think it's official that we can now claim the Baltimore Ravens are the scariest team in the 2025 NFL playoffs. Now, the Baltimore Ravens have become renowned for strong regular season records and disappointing playoff performances, headed up by the ultimate regular season warrior, Lamar Jackson. Jackson could well be on his way to his third MVP award, but his playoff performances have left a lot to be desired, boasting an underwhelming 3-4 record with a 59% completion rate, 8 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. This year, though, everything feels different. In a game where just their rushing attack completely took over against the Steelers, Lamar Jackson was damn near perfect as a passer. His passer rating of 132 is by a long shot the best performance of his career, completing 76% of his passes for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. And honestly, I think the 2024 season is just a real reminder of how far Lamar Jackson has come as a passer throughout his career. And we're going to touch on that in just a second, but in the wild card game, that just shows how dominant he was with his legs and how scary he is as a rusher. His 81 yards came at 5.4 yards per carry, and on the first drive, Jackson carried the ball 5 times in a row, toying with the Steelers and setting the tone nice and early. In this stat too, Jackson does already hold the record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history with 6,173, and every team the Ravens play knows his legs are his superpower. And the thing is though, nobody can still stop him. Week after week, Jackson is just gliding his way past defenders for huge gains and crucial third downs, proving to be one of the most reliable and dangerous play callers in the entire NFL. And as I said before, that was on full display on Saturday night against the Steelers, but that's not even the part that makes this team the scariest team in the playoffs right now. It's the fact that not only do they have Lamar Jackson running the ball, they also have Derrick Henry in the backfield. Despite having already played the Ravens twice this year, the Pittsburgh Steelers looked completely helpless when it came to stopping the dangerous duo on wildcard weekend. Almost immediately after Jackson had carried 5 times in a row, Henry took a carry 12 yards before receiving a direct snap and picking up 34 more yards. And also, we have to mention too that this impressive play featured a signature stiff arm that struck Minkah Fitzpatrick on his backside in embarrassing fashion for the safety. The Ravens were just having their way with their bitter rivals, manhandling and outmuscling them in a way that perfectly epitomized January football. And you see, that's really the thing that a lot of teams are struggling with, is that they can't stop both Jackson and Henry. In this opening onslaught, put the Steelers defenders in their place early. And just when you thought they were going to keep running the ball, well, they chose to pass the ball instead in red zone. For some reason, Baltimore did divert away from the run and went to the pass, losing 3 yards on first and second down to set up a 3rd and 13 from the 15-yard line. However, the effects of Baltimore's relentless rushing had clearly taken its toll, as Jackson was gifted the biggest of pockets, allowing him to bide his time before firing a perfectly placed touchdown pass to Rashad Bateman. Really, it was just a deflating blow to the Steelers defense and just a constant reminder of how good Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense is. They bullied their opponents into submission with their ground game, and when faced with a 3rd and long, Jackson showed why he is a frontrunner for MVP, delivering the killer blow with his arm. Truly, they are just too versatile on running and passing the ball. It was on full display on that opening drive. In total, it took them 13 plays in 7 minutes to march the 95 yards they needed for the opening score, setting the tone in the most intimidating way possible. They did go on to punt on their next drive, and the Ravens imposed their will on the Steelers yet again on their 3rd drive of the game, this time starting at their own 15-yard line. Henry and Jackson both had multiple carries of 8 or more yards, including a vintage 20-yard scramble by the later on a 2nd and 13 that just had the defense completely lost. And I think they may have learned from their mistakes earlier in the game, because Baltimore didn't even decide to bother with the passing game for the rest of the drive, collecting another 1st down on 2 Lamar Jackson runs. It was then at this time to hand it over to King Henry, who delivered 17 yards to get inside the 10 before collecting another 8 en route to the end zone, shedding multiple tacklers in the process. As crazy as it sounds too, is another emphatic 13-play drive taking up just shy of 8 minutes, and most significantly, utilizing only run plays. The Ravens were doing whatever they wanted, and there was nothing the Steelers could do to stop them. Like, I mean, truly, it's one thing to have to worry about Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry on their own, but when they're both in the same backfield, trying to defend them at the same time is damn near impossible. Like, I mean, Henry's reliability and relentlessness also allow the Ravens to take the pressure off of their quarterback, elevating him to be a driving force of the offense and creating more favorable situations for Lamar. Like, I mean, truly, read option plays, they're not fair anymore, and the Ravens made sure to take full advantage of the impossible matchup. Picking who to focus on is nearly impossible in this backfield, and as soon as you overcommit to the run, Lamar can get you with his arm. Like, I mean, as soon as your linebackers start overcommitting and moving more into the box, that's when Lamar Jackson is going to punish you with a slant right behind them in an RPO or just a deep bomb later in the game. Because honestly, there is more than enough talent on this Ravens offense to make any defense pay. Like, I mean, teams all year long have learned the hard way, and the Steelers game when they played them on Saturday was no different. And what's crazy too is they did all of this and even some passing without Zay Flowers. Like, that's how good this offense is. They did it without their best wide receiver. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, and Anthony Miller all had at least 2 catches on the day. If Zay Flowers can return next week against Buffalo, then the Bills will have a very tough task on their hands. They even have a dynamic third down back in Justice Hill, who is a very elusive option in the backfield, who provided this by bringing in a 5-yard receiving touchdown in the dying stages of the first half, increasing the lead to 21 points to 0 with just 2 seconds left on the clock. Like, I mean, this play right here is just another reason of just how unstoppable Lamar Jackson is. Like, if he doesn't get you with his legs, he's gonna kill you with his arm then. Like, it's absolutely insane how good he is. Like, I mean, a first half shutout with 3 touchdowns for the Ravens pretty much just signified the end of this game by halftime. The Ravens were just simply too dominant, and there was little to hope for the away fans that their team was going to muster up any form of a comeback. However, as we all do know, Russell Wilson did briefly threaten to do something with a nice passing touchdown to Van Jefferson, but Baltimore promptly reminded everyone who's boss by executing a 4-play, 70-yard touchdown drive straight after that. Punt returner Stephen Sims even got involved with a 15-yard jet sweep before Derrick Henry iced it with a 45-yard run into the end zone. It was an absolutely emphatic and clinical drive by the Ravens that extinguished the Steelers' briefest glimmer of hope as soon as it had arrived. Like, I mean, truly, there was little doubt about who was boss in this game, and nothing that happened over the remaining quarter and a half did anything to change that. Baltimore ended up enjoying a relatively comfortable 28-14 victory to move on to the divisional round, where they're going to have to play the Buffalo Bills. I mean, even as we look at the stats here too, Derrick Henry led the Ravens rushing attack with a whopping 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, which averaged out to 7.2 yards per carry, which is absolutely insane. It was followed up with Lamar Jackson with 81, Steven Sims with 15, Justice Hill with 12, and even Mark Andrews with 5, who came with a couple of sneaks. In total, that adds up to 299 yards, with the Ravens only falling short of the big 300 because of a Lamar Jackson kneel down. I mean, even in contrast, as we look at the Steelers too, they managed a dismal 29 rushing yards on 11 attempts, averaging out to 2.6 yards per carry. I mean, that's a difference of 270 yards, which tells you all you need to know about how one-sided this game was. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys knew I had to come through with you guys for a promo code, so make sure that you guys are using code YouTube150 for a nice 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. That's right, we were doing 125%, but we said screw that, we're giving you guys 150% instead. Again, that is promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Like, simply put, if you lose control on the ground, then you have no chance, and with Henry and Jackson running wild, the Steelers truly had no chance from the first drive onwards. That's the thing though, is that the Ravens, it's not just their offense that makes them the scariest team remaining in the playoffs. It's the fact that their defense plays just as well also. Like, I mean, even after starting the season so poorly, Zach Orr's unit has rounded into form very nicely. They held Pittsburgh to just 29 rushing yards, and it's indicative of how their D-line has played all year, limiting opposing teams to the fewest yards on the ground by far. On average, Baltimore was restricting opponents to just 80.1 rushing yards per game, which is 13 yards better than Minnesota in second place, who gave up 93.4 rushing yards per game in the regular season. This dominance at the line of scrimmage has forced opposing offenses into unideal third down situations, which has been great news for the Ravens pass rush. Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owehi, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that because I know I did, but both have notched up double-digit sacks on the year, with Matabuki picking up 6.5 on his own from the interior. The secondary also had issues earlier in the year, resulting in the team having given up the second most passing yards in the regular season with 244 per game. Nevertheless, though, as the season grew older, communications issues and coverage busts became far less frequent as playmakers adjusted to Zach Orr's scheme and proved far harder to pick on. Marlon Humphrey led the team with 6 interceptions, and Kyle Hamilton remains one of the most dominant and versatile safeties in the league. Truly, with the secondary clicking and their defensive line just getting after the quarterback, their defense is peaking at the perfect time when they need to. Truly, you could argue that they might be the most well-rounded team remaining in the playoffs, and then when you add in Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on the offensive side of the ball, without a doubt, they are the scariest, I think. Truly, I would even argue that this might be the year that they could go all the way, especially because they have Derrick Henry to lean on, so Lamar doesn't have to be doing everything all game long. But it's gonna have to start this week against Buffalo. In the clash of MVP favorites, Josh Allen is a formidable foe to go up against him in his home stadium, but the Bills finished the season ranked 12th when it comes to stopping the run and 24th when it comes to stopping the pass. That's super concerning when facing the Ravens, especially when you consider these two teams have already faced off this year, and it was the Ravens who emerged victorious by 35 points to 10. Everyone forgot that Henry had 199 yards and a score in that game, and the Bills are very anxious to limit him this time around. And I think it's safe to say too that if they can't, then it's really hard to see the Ravens not racking up a significant amount of points here and winning. Yes, you could argue too that Buffalo does have the firepower to score a lot of points themselves, but Baltimore's defense should be able to take away James Cook on the ground, which should put some pressure on Bills pass catchers, who we all know aren't exactly a star-studded bunch. All in all, though, this Ravens roster is as talented as any in the playoffs, and the presence of Derrick Henry has given them the edge they need to control games and bully opponents. I truly do think this is their year to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and I see them walking away with a Lombardi trophy if they keep playing like this. And if you want to see what NFL players actually think about Jahmyr Gibbs, then click this video right here.